Hi, this is Kim Parkinson from Podcasting for Spiritual Women. And I first jumped into Adam's World back in just January of this year after reading an email about the podcast growth certification. I was all in. We kicked it off in April and I devoured every bit of the course. By May, I was certified and already using what I had learned on coaching calls and landing clients with his methods. But I wasn't leaving Adam's World just yet. Next came the 21-day newsletter bootcamp, and I immediately started implementing his strategies. I've had people reach out just from switching to Adam's newsletter template. But I wasn't done with him yet, and I joined the Online Business Academy for Podcasters, and I've been cruising through the content. The knowledge is gold, and the strategies are simple yet powerful. Having Adam in my world has been a total game changer, and I'm no longer just a podcast producer, but I'm a coach, a guide, and I've got Adam in my back pocket for the journey ahead. If you haven't joined one of Adam's programs yet, what are you waiting for?
What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's a show where I teach podcasters simple strategies to help you make more money, get more clients, and build a profitable online business. Pod Pals, I'm excited to be here today talking about how I maximize podcast guesting opportunities. Before I dive into that, did you hear today's testimonial? My girl Kim is killing it. Shout out to Kim. If you guys have goals like what you heard there, she's getting clients, she's building offers, she's adding skill sets to her online business repertoire. If that sounds like something that you want to accomplish, leveraging your show to get clients and to build your online business, a next great step to take would be to hit the link in the show notes and get on a podcast profit potential discovery call. We can chat about how I can help you out and how we can work together and accelerate your results with your online business and converting podcast listeners into your best paying clients. Hit that link in the show notes. Okay. So today, podcast guesting. This is something that when you first start podcasting, most podcasters understand that a great way to grow your show and grow your brand, if you're building your online business to get more clients, is to be on other people's podcasts. So today I want to leverage this episode to teach on two specific pain points that need to be paired up when we have this conversation. All right. So we're going to talk about how to be a guest on more podcasts. And then we're going to talk about how to maximize each guesting opportunity. We're going to attack both those today. This is going to be a beefy episode here for you on Podcasting Business School. All right. So first things first, my all-time least favorite part of being a podcaster, wait for it, is the spammy pitch emails I get every day about being a guest on my show. These are terrible. So if you're newer to podcasting, you may not be getting these yet, but you will. They are coming. And I get at least a dozen a day, maybe dozens a day, just in my email. But then I'm also getting them in the DMs on Instagram. Now that DMs are happening on Threads, those are starting to pop up. And I get it. I'm not hating on anybody that's like, hey, I want to be on your show. And you're just like an independent podcaster doing reach outs. I get that. All right. But the people that are ruining everything for everybody are these PR companies that are just spamming podcasters. And for those of you that have been podcasting for a while, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We get these template emails that suck, that are like, they're just templates. And, I've got a few funny stories I like to tell on this topic, but one is when I get the template email that they forget to fill in the template, where it will legitimately say, hello, and then bracket podcast name here or podcaster name here. We love your show. Insert podcast name here. We listened to last episode. Insert a few comments about latest episode here. Like they send the template and it's not even filled in. So that happens quite a bit. I get called the wrong name a lot. I famously have been called Amanda by one company, and I just kind of let it run. They're like, hey, Amanda, we love your show. And they don't even mention the show. So we know it's a template. And then I didn't reply because I kind of wanted to see what had happened. And I did an Instagram reel about like, hey, what should I say to these people? They called me Amanda. And they respond back like a couple days later, Amanda, just checking in to see if you got our last email. And they respond, they follow up again. I mean, kudos to the follow-up process here. Amanda, why have you not responded yet? And it's like, 3-4 times they're calling me Amanda. I think I eventually responded and said, hey, my name's not Amanda. Bad start, or something like that. And then they tried to apologize, and I was like, peace out. So now, legitimately, I can tell when I'm getting a guest pitch email. I don't even open it. I just send it straight to spam. And then on my Gmail, it's like, would you like to do this to all emails that come from this person? Yes. And it just feels good. And I apologize if any of you have reached out individually, like personally, and said, hey, I'd like to be a guest on your show. But these PR people have ruined it for everybody, in my opinion. So that isn't an effective strategy anymore. Because now, even if I'm a real human being and I'm really sending a guest pitch email to a real podcaster, and I'm not using a template, we're getting lumped in. This strategy is ineffective. So we're going to talk about some other ways to do this that are effective. All right. So how to be a guest on more podcasts. The first and most effective action step and strategy that I want you to focus on is adding value first to the person that you want to collaborate with, especially if they're, a bigger fish in the pond. If they are a bigger brand than you are, if they are more experienced than you are, if, it would be really beneficial for you to attach your wagon to their wagon, we got to add value first. We are not in a world of content creation anymore where you can be like, hey, I'd love to be on your show. And like, oh yeah, person with 1 episode and 12 Instagram followers, I'd love to have you on my show just because I'm a nice person. Like, that isn't going to happen anymore. I'm just going to tell you the truth. We can't have our feelings hurt about that. This makes sense. There's a lot of content creators out there. There's a lot of collaboration opportunities, and people are going to be picking and choosing. All right. But the good thing is, when we add value first, bigger brands are still willing to come on and, like, especially when they're promoting something, or there's a new book out, or they're promoting a new course, they're in launch mode or something, we can still work those collaboration opportunities if we are willing to play the long game, develop real relationships, and add value first. So whenever you run into a collaboration opportunity, and like maybe you're at an event, maybe you listen to a show and it's one of your favorite shows, you're like, I'd love to be on this show. Always work through the filter of, how can I add value to this person first, play the long game, and build a relationship, period. Do not DM them on Instagram and go, hey, I'd love to be on your show, and here's why. I just wouldn't do that. That's going to get lumped in with everything else. That's asking somebody to marry you before you even have a date. All right. So let's play the long game. Let's stand out. Add value first. Let's talk about a few add value first strategies. My favorite is invite them onto your podcast first. And especially if they're a bigger brand, wait until they're kind of in that launch mode. If you listen to their show, you hear them promoting something like, ooh, opportunity. They just launched a new book. They're promoting a new course, something. They're much more likely to come on your show if they're in that launch mode mentality. That's when you reach out, email, Instagram, whatever. When you reach out, you make it extremely clear that you are inviting them onto your show. Like, to the point where the email subject is, please be a guest on my show. Invite to be a guest on my show. Something like that. You cannot let it get lumped in and confused with somebody that's pitching them to be on their show. Because we already know we're getting lots and lots of those. So inviting to be on your podcast first is a great value add first strategy. One of my favorite ways to do this, I've talked about it before on the show, in the newsletter, is scroll through those top 100, 200 rankings in Apple and Spotify. Start towards the back edge of somebody that's ranked 150 to 200 maybe, and start looking at shows and listening to shows. And you find a few that, like, hey, I think I would be a great guest for them. I think they'd be a great guest for me. Let's reach out and add value first and invite them onto the show. Make friends. Let's collaborate, and let's see where that goes. All right. That's how this works. Again, You could, I mean, I know some of you are like, but I could use AI to create a template and spam hundreds of podcasters a day. And at least some of them are going to tell me yes. Yeah. But a lot of those are going to be newer podcasters that have 12 people listening. And is that really worth it? I'd rather play the long game and have you be a guest on 12 podcasts per year, but they're all doing hundreds, if not thousands of downloads per episode of ranked podcasters. All right. And playing the long game versus being a guest on a podcast every week that's just getting started, has a really tiny audience. All right. So invite onto your podcast. That's a great value add strategy. Another one is if you have like online summits, online events, you have like a Instagram live stream, something. All right. We just have to think about content collaboration ideas. And I know some of you are like, Adam, but you're the guy, going back to inviting people onto our show. You're the guy that says do more solo episodes. Yes, but 1/3 ish of your content, for me, it's about 1/4, is strategic interviews. So you're inviting people onto your show. Let's be really strategic with that. Let's invite ideal collaboration partners and to fill that slot. So people that are pitching to be on my show, you have to fit my ideal collaboration partner like persona and fit that prototype where I'm like, okay, you need to have 1,000 people on your email list. You need to be doing X amount of downloads. You got to have 100 episodes of your show. You got I really want to be able to look at the collaboration from both directions. You can coming on my show, me coming on your show. Does that make sense? So reaching out on Apple Podcasts, ranked podcasters, Spotify, ranked podcasters. But we have to find collaboration opportunities. So if you don't have that, you need to create that. So maybe you have a quarterly online summit and you have 10 guest speakers. All 10 should be potential collaboration partners that you want to develop or enhance relationships with. And you're playing the long game. You're adding value first. Maybe you've got a decent following on Instagram, or that's your focus platform. And you're like, hey, every week I'm going to go live on Instagram and invite somebody on, and we're going to have kind of a live conversation, do Q&A, and speak on our topic that we have kind of a shared interest in. Something like that. You have to think collaboration. What do I have this collaboration mechanism that I can invite people into where I can add value first and use this entire strategy? So if you don't have that, figure it out. That's your next step. Okay. All right. So how to be a guest on more podcasts. It starts with the value add first strategies. Then we have to think about our own content and are we establishing ourselves as experts? So maybe you've gone too far on the side of interviews and you're doing too many interviews. I talk about this a lot too. And that can be a bad thing. So maybe like inviting a ton of people and you're getting people on your show, but you aren't establishing yourself as an expert enough on your own show. That's why we need a blend. That's why I like the 2/3 content rule. 2/3 of your content, you're the expert, solo episodes, coaching episodes, case study episodes. 1/3 strategic interviews. That's a nice balance because now you will have people as your audience grows, as you mature in your podcasting journey, your audience will grow. There will be other podcasters or people that are interested in your topic that are listening to your show. If you establish yourself as an expert and teach and speak well on your topics, on the pain points that your ideal listener is trying to solve, then you will get invites onto other people's shows. People will reach out and say, hey, I love this episode on this topic. Would love to have you on. And maybe they have an online summit. Like I've been invited by my listeners to speak at online events, in-person real life events, be a guest on their show, speak to their masterminds, speak to their membership. I get reach outs from my audience, from you all the time in those sorts of situations because of how I establish expert positioning with my content. And not just on my show with episodes like this, but in social media. Sometimes in social media, we're just promoting and we need to teach a little bit. We need to show expert positioning. Every freaking day on Threads, I'm posting tips 3 times a day. Usually the midday post is a big, long form, deep dive, multi-tip explanation of a strategy. Pure expert positioning. People are now reaching out on Threads going, hey, will you be a guest on my show? Or, can you come and speak to my mastermind on this podcast growth strategy or whatever? All right. So expert positioning on our podcast content, on social media, and then in our newsletter and email copy. Again, too many people are getting too promoty of like, those emails that you get like, this person will emails me if they're promoting something. So, with my whole high value newsletter strategy, the expert positioning, the huge value add is really important. So again, we're establishing expert positioning, podcast content, social media content, email copy, newsletter content, really important. So are we doing that? Are we doing that enough? Does your audience actually see you as being an expert? Because let's go back to the first strategy, being on other people's podcasts. Let's see what happens here. So let's say you reach out to somebody that's got the number 127 ranked podcast in your niche. They agree to come on your show. Awesome. You have a great conversation. You don't get the immediate invite, but guess what that person is going to do? They're probably curious about having you on their show. If they have guests, which they probably do, they're going to go onto your social media. They're going to listen to some of your episodes. They may subscribe to your newsletter or get some email copy. Maybe they're already on your list because that might be part of your guesting form or something like that. They're probably going to check out some of your content. And if you aren't establishing yourself as an expert, you're missing on that next layer of like conversion of them going, oh yeah, this person, they really do speak well. They are an expert in this subsegment of this niche that we're both in. And then you can get the invite back to their show. Maybe that's a part of the process of after the interview, you go, hey, I've got a couple episodes I would love for you to check out, because if I think your audience would love to hear a conversation with us talking about this, but check out episode number, blah, 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 blah. I'll send you the link. And if that conversation makes sense, I'd love to explore the idea of me coming on your show and exploring this topic as well. So now you got some targeted content, or maybe it's a newsletter, maybe it's a social media post or whatever. So there's a method to this madness. We're not just randomly putting expert positioning out there. I know from being, in the industry now for a decade, is that when people guest on your show and you're trying to build a relationship, they will follow you on Instagram or whatever. They will check out some of your content usually. So let's leverage that. Now, the third thing for how to be a guest on more podcasts is you got to network your buns off, pod pals. You got to put your networking big boy and big girl pants on and get out there and get in front of potential collaboration partners. All right, we can't sit back in our podcast lair in our basement and just hide away from the world. We got to get out and network. All right. So you got to get in front of potential collab partners at like live events, online events, workshops, summits, free or paid. Get out there, spend a little budget. My God, it's a business write-off when you attend a live workshop or sign up for a paid thing. Join memberships, join masterminds. Example, I back in the day, like I used Amy Porterfield's her digital course program, Digital Course Academy, DCA. I signed up for that several years back. I used that to create my Download Growth Club membership. And she had a Facebook group that was a part of that and had like 50,000 people in it. And I was a part of that. And I'm a part of, 50,000 content creators. And I talked about podcasting a lot in there. And I wasn't pitching my services. I was like, okay, here's how I'm going to use my podcast to sell my new thing I'm creating. And I was just dropping tips in there every once in a while. And I got a lot of interest. And I got some new clients for my offer as I was creating it in this course, this group coaching program that I paid for. And I definitely got more clients. And I think I paid like $2,000 for this thing. I got way more clients in client revenue than I did on what I spent for that. So that was awesome. But I'm in there networking. I go to live events. I pay for workshops. I attend networking events that my content collaboration partners are putting on. And you just have to get out there and get in front of people and start connecting. So a lot of times at online summits, I'll teach a little bit and then I'll hop back into the comments and watch other people do their thing. And I'm in that Zoom chat or whatever the chat feature. I'm adding some insight, talking and networking with people. And that just gets you and your content out in front of a new audience. And also it gets you connected to potential collaboration partners, where like I'm going to go and speak at this event here in a few weeks in Cleveland called the Content Entrepreneur Expo. You should definitely check it out. And there's a lot of really high level entrepreneurship and business and content creation experts there. I'm going to be networking my ass off in these, after party VIP, speaker sessions and whatever. I'm going to be shaking hands. I'm going to have my contact info ready to share. I'm going to be inviting people onto my show. I'm going to be sitting in these people's front row, so they recognize the big guy in that front row. Oh, and he followed up with me afterwards in the after party, speaker connection thing. And I'm going to be out there talking to people. All right. So we have to get out there and network our butt off. So how to be a guest on our podcast? Use the add value first strategies, establish expert positioning in all of your content, and network your little podcasting buns off. Now, how to maximize the second question. My God, we're 20 minutes into this thing. Let's go. How to maximize each podcast guesting opportunity. So once we get the invite, how do we maximize this? All right. Tip number 1, prepare for your audience. Know who you are talking to. My God, when you get the invite, Pod Pals, do not waste it and just go, oh, I'm just going to show up and be me. I'm just going to do my thing. I used to be like that. And then I realized that I was really letting a lot of the opportunities slip through my fingers. All right. So prepare for your audience. Know who you are talking to. All right. Tip number 2, map out a few key talking points or topics that might be covered in the interview. So we know who we're talking to. So I could get an invite onto somebody that's got a show for solopreneurs. All right. So I go, okay, solopreneurs, topics of interest will probably be like, should I launch a podcast? How do I use a podcast to grow my business and get clients? Those are going to be some wheelhouse topics. I'm going to just map out a few notes around that. I've got a few, maybe some stories, some client stories that are in alignment with that. Some words of wisdom, some key frameworks points. I'm just going to have this kind of sidebar notes that I'll have as I go through this interview. So we're going to map out a few key talking points. Next tip number 3, in alignment with those talking points, I will have a quick reference sheet of podcast episodes, specific podcast episodes with specific numbers. This, Pod Pals, is why I number every single one of my episodes in the title of the episode. Like this one says 583, colon, how I maximize podcast guesting opportunities. So that when I'm on episode 10,000 and I'm on someone else's show and I talk about podcast guesting, I can go, hey, and if you enjoyed what we talked about today, a great next step, a good foothold would be episode 583. Go get it. And they can scroll right to this episode and listen to it. All right. It makes it much, much easier. So I will have that quick reference sheet of notes, topics, talking points. And it's not like a big giant thing. I'm talking about just a few lines. All right. There's nothing worse than somebody asks you a question on a podcast and you're reading. You don't want to be reading answers. All right. But we're just our little mental checklist. If we talk about this topic, make sure we mention this episode. All right. My goal, anytime I'm a guest on someone else's show, is to name drop between 1 and 3 episodes. So we talk a little about podcast launching. I'll be like, oh, and before we change topics, I know we're going to talk about some other things here, but real quick, if you enjoyed what we just talked about here, I go way deeper into this on episode blah, 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 Podcasting Business School. Go check it out. And what does the host almost always say? Oh, yeah, that's great. I'll put it in the show notes. I'll put the direct link in the show notes. Great. Perfect. And I'll do that 1, 2, 3. I don't do it more than 3 times because I feel like 3 is the upper limit of being annoying. But I will do that between 1 and 3 times, specific episodes. I have so many people that become my clients because I go on someone else's show and I mention very specific starting episodes that are related to the topic that we talked about. And then I always ask people when they hire me, hey, how did you find me? They're like, oh, you're on so-and-so's podcast and you told me to listen to that one episode. I did. And I fell down the rabbit hole and here we are. Give me money. So this is really, we'll get to the kind of the shout out end segment of an interview here in a second, but it's way more effective than going, hey, check out Podcasting Business School wherever you enjoy audio. Like, that's okay. But if you can give people, hey, this is what we talked about. If this interests you, if this is a pain point, if this is a hot button, next step, go to this specific episode, dive in. We've already given them the appetizer. They're already hungry for more. Give them the specific next step. If you don't remember anything else from today's episode, do this and it will work. This is super effective. All right. Next thing, be memorable. My God, like this is where, my pod pal, Amanda Walker, shout out, real big on frameworks, right? Named processes, named frameworks. Give them memorable content. When I talk about my podcasting success timeline or my 2/3 content rule or my 72-hour rule for podcast promotion, like I have these frameworks, I have these processes, and they are named. I don't just say, hey, here's how we promote our podcast. I say, oh, you need to use my 72-hour promotion window. Ooh, what's that? Or I don't say, hey, we need to just establish expert positioning. I'll say, let's talk about my 2/3 content rule for expert positioning. This is really important. Bam. Now they've got that in their head. You all quote these things back to me. When we have conversations, you mention things specifically by name, the 72-hour window, the 2/3 content rule, the podcasting success timeline, these frameworks that I put out there, client conversion pathway, blah, blah, blah. I name all these things specifically so that they are memorable, both in my content and when I'm on someone else's show creating content. Be memorable. The other thing, talk about clients, name drop clients or case studies, but do it strategically. Don't just do it out of the blue. All right. Like if you're talking about a certain thing and you can use a client story, a client success story to kind of enhance the conversation. So if we're talking about using your show to get more clients, I could reference Kim from our testimonial today. And, maybe we're talking about leveraging show. Most podcasters don't make any money. Oh, well, shout out to my client, Kim. She actually was running into this and we had to create an offer that better fit her podcasting audience and then dial on the pricing and blah, 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 blah. I can kind of unpack her story, use that as an example. And I'm not like, hey, go get my offer in the show notes on someone else's podcast. I'm just letting them know I'm working with people. Like people are hiring me. They're paying me real hard-earned money to work with me and solve these types of problems. That's great. That's expert positioning. That's memorable. It's not just like, oh, I'm just getting started on all this. And if you are, then don't use client case studies. All right. But this is a strategy that you will use once you are getting clients and getting results for people. All right. So talk about client results, case studies, use those to enhance expert positioning and as something that kind of just froths up your stories a little bit. All right. That's always a good thing. Now, let's talk about that end thing that always happens at a podcast interview. I call it the shout out segment. So at the end, you've been a great guest. People are like, hey, go ahead and take a second here. And where can people get a hold of you? What do you want people to do? Shout out your brand, blah, blah, blah. That always happens at the end, normally. So 2 goals. Number 1, if you haven't done it yet, name a specific episode. I would say something like, hey, if you've never listened to my show, Podcasting Business School, you can listen to it wherever you enjoy audio. But based on our conversation today, I would really recommend starting out with episode number 583 because of blah, 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 blah. Right. That's, if you haven't done it yet, specific episode. And notice how I still did the traditional podcast shout out. Well, check out my show, Podcasting Business School, wherever you enjoy audio. But most people stop there. I'm going to take it the next step and go, and based off of our conversation today, I recommend starting, bam, give them an episode. All right. Much better, more strategic. Then next level goal, I really want to get them on your email list. Now, if you aren't doing anything with your email list, don't do this. I wouldn't promote an offer. Maybe you promote a social media account or something like that. But for me, it's get them on my email list. So right after, so my whole basic thing is going to sound like this. Hey, if you've never listened to my show before, it's called Podcasting Business School. It's available wherever you enjoy audio. Based off of our conversation today, would really love to have you start out with episode number 583, blah, blah, blah. And then if you guys really loved what we talked about today, and if you would enjoy getting fresh, hot tips in your email inbox every Thursday, you got to sign up for my Podcasting Business School newsletter. And then I would explain, I'd give them a reason to do that. And I always explain, hey, my newsletter every Thursday is different topic than what I talk about on Tuesday. So in the audio, you're getting one topic. On the newsletter, you're getting a separate topic to add even more value every Thursday. It's a high value add newsletter, not a promotional email, blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to get them into one episode and get them on my email list. Those are my goals. And this is how we create super fans. Now they're in our content vortex. We have their email. They're getting both the show with specific targeted episodes and the newsletter where we can communicate a little bit further and in a different way. So those are my two goals in the shout out segment. Bam. All right. So those are my notes. I'm going to stop there. We're already 30 minutes into the solo episode. That's something I'm noticing, y'all. Like my solo episodes getting longer and longer over here as I go. Approaching 600 episodes. That's pretty impressive. I'm impressed with that. Hopefully you are too. So we talked about the main 2 pain points today, how to be a guest on more podcasts. And then when we do get that invite, how to squeeze every drop of juice out of that guesting opportunity. Take these notes, apply what is useful. But just like some basic things, number one, I'd say stop sending spammy, I want to be on your podcast emails and DMs. And even worse, don't pay someone else to do it. I wouldn't do it. All right. Use my value add first strategies. Going to work way, way better. All right. And then when you are a guest, again, focus on adding value to that audience, preparing to add value for that audience, and really being strategic with how we invite their audience into your world with a specific episode, with a newsletter, a link, things like that. All right, Pod Pals, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you are fired up to close out 2025 here strong. Very excited with what's going on with my brand, with the growth, and just lots of fun happening. I enjoy interacting with you all. So I'm going to sign off here, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. And I will see you on the next episode. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.